Thank you for tuning in to the hottest podcast on these internet streets, giving you nothing but the facts about STEM education, inspiration, and motivation for our future leaders of tomorrow. We believe in creating future scientists one test tube at a time. The More Than Just Science show is going in a different direction this quarter, as we will be encouraging you weekly on the ideas you can use at your home if you are a parent, at school if you are a student, and in the classroom if you are an educator. Students, come get this knowledge. Teachers, come take some notes. Parents, come educate your kids. And listeners, stay tuned because we're bringing you facts from yours truly, the two-time award-winning Professor Tabby, aka TK the Chemist Ship. Your favorite professor of chemistry of the More Than Just Science show. Hello guys, and welcome to our show on this beautiful day. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to join us, and for that, you know what I want to say. Thank you. This is the More Than Just Science show, and I'm your host, Professor TK the Chemist. If you want to get in touch with me about anything you've heard today or on my past shows, you can reach out to me on Instagram at TK the Chemist, Twitter at TK the Chemist01, my website www.mygemsforkids.com, Facebook, MyGems Science Center. And you can also email me at tkthechemist@gmail.com. But don't worry, I will have all these contact infos at the end of my screen, okay? And I also want to give you one other announcement. I have developed some online STEM courses for kids. So if you have a child that's between the ages of 8 and 12, go to www.tkthechemist.com and you can get all the information there in terms of what we're going to be offering for the fall. Our academy will be starting on August the 20th, so don't delay, sign up. And I have a 17% discount because we've been celebrating 17 years of the MyGems Science Center, so you want to go ahead and hop on that discount right away. So let's go ahead and get straight into our content. Our segment is called, What's the Word in STEM This Week? Now, I posted this story on my Instagram page, and it got so many hits, saves, and discussions. And it's about the latest victory for this brother, Dwayne Johnson. Jurors gave $289 million to Dwayne Johnson that got cancer from Monsanto's Roundup weed killer. San Francisco jurors just ruled that the Roundup, the most popular weed killer in the world, gave a former school groundskeeper terminal cancer. So they awarded him $289 million in damages, mostly to punish the agriculture company Monsanto. Dwayne Johnson's victory Friday could set a massive precedent for thousands of cases claiming Monsanto's famous herbicide causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Johnson's case was the first to go to trial because doctors said he was near death. And in California, dying plaintiffs can be granted expedited trials. So, of course, there's this big push that we need to get rid of weed killer, particularly Roundup. But so many people aren't aware of what's going on with it. And CNN reported last year that more than 800 patients were suing Monsanto, claiming Roundup gave them cancer. Since then, hundreds more plaintiffs, including cancer patients, their spouses, or their estates, have also sued Monsanto. And you know what? Earlier this year, guys, Bayer took over the name Monsanto, so they will now operate under Bayer's name. Go figure. So it won't change the fact that Johnson's two sons might lose their dad, but it will help them live more comfortably. Okay, says their attorney, Timothy Lindsberg. So doctors weren't sure how long Johnson would live to see his trial, but I am so glad that this was a victory for this brother. Y'all don't know how happy I was to read this, but of course, an appeal would be costly for Monsanto, because you know these companies will appeal these court decisions. And since the company would have to pay interest on the damages while the case is being appealed, that's about $25 million a year. So, since he was awarded this amount of money, I don't know if Monsanto will want to go through with this appeal. As a matter of fact, it says after 3 days of deliberations this week, the jury at the Superior Court of California in San Francisco awarded Johnson $250 million in punitive damages and about $39 million in compensatory damages. So, of course, after the attorneys get their hands on that money, and go through the court case, he'll still be able to have money for his sons. Johnson, who is 46 years old, testified that during his work, he had 2 accidents in which he was soaked in the product. Soaked in it now, okay? The first accident happened in 2012. 2 years later, in 2014, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so there were bad days where he could not even speak because he was too crippled, or his body was had over 80% of his body had lesions on it. So just to hear this heartbreaking story, have him testify about this was just such a devastation, okay? But his wife is working 2 40-hour-per-week jobs to support the family, and that's a damn shame, okay? One of the main ingredients in Roundup is glyphosate, and it's a herbicide. It's applied to leaves of plants to kill both the broadleaf plants and grasses, and the sodium salt of glyphosate is used to regulate plant growth and ripen fruit. They first registered this poison in 1974, so we're talking 44 years ago, and it's been one of the most widely used herbicides in the United States. And I have my students do research on these things every semester, and as a matter of fact, this is going to be a hot topic when we start school on Monday. I'm going to talk about this with my chemistry students because many of them are going into the healthcare field, and knowledge is power. They need to know about this. Because people, even common everyday people like you and I who have yards, people apply this stuff in their agriculture and forestry. They've applied on the lawns and gardens, for weed control. So we got to get this under control. And some of these products contain glyphosates, control aquatic plants too. They also put this stuff on sugar beans, sugar beets, wheat, canola, corn, cotton, soybeans, okay? And let me tell you, this stuff is sold in solid, liquid, and ready-to-use formulation. So there are a lot of people that are using this stuff and don't even realize the effects. So I'll put the link to this story as well. In other news, for the first time, researchers have created lungs in the lab and successfully transplanted them into pigs. Okay? So these bioengineered lungs developed healthy blood vessels that allowed pigs to live for several weeks after surgery without medical complications. That's a significant improvement because they've had these same researchers have done the same experiment before. And they were able to grow lab-grown lungs implanted in rodents, but those failed within hours before the lungs could fully develop to have blood vessel networks forming. So if this new procedure can be adopted for humans, which you know that they're already doing that, with bioengineered lungs grown from a patient's own cells, this could reduce the risk of organ rejection and slash wait times for organ transplants. Do y'all know that in the United States, there are about 1,500 people currently on a waiting list for lung transplants? So they're trying to move forward with this. And of course, they're using 3D printing to make lung scaffolding, like the mold of the lungs. So this wouldn't surprise me if this is already being done. They just haven't really talked about it that much. Now you're probably wondering why the lungs of a pig. So did you all know that pigs are closely related to humans somewhat? Okay, let me give you all a little bit of the anatomy behind it. A pig weighs about 60 kilograms. So if you think about the way that it has fat distribution, well, the human body in many ways, including fat distribution, having hair on the body and the ability to track insects, is the same way that pigs typically do. Pigs have been used in medical research for over 30 years, and what they have realized is that pigs also break down the same way that humans do. So there's a farm, the animal farm, that a lot of forensic scientists go to whenever they want to go to grad school or even undergrad, and I believe it's Alabama. It's called the farm, oh gosh, what's the name of it? Anyway, I remember reading about it a long time ago, and they would study pigs because of their ability to break down. Pig skin is already being used in tissues and heart valves in the human body already. And also, when medical students go to school, they actually practice suturing on pigs' feet. Okay, so pigs have already been used in the human body. So, yeah. So, well, I know I didn't evolve from a pig, but if scientists are conducting research on them for human organs, who knows what else is next? Again, I'll have this link posted at the end of my story as well. So let's go ahead and take a quick, and I do mean quick, commercial break. I'm giving you all this break so you can go and grab your pens and your paper, because we're going to go ahead and get into part 3 of our story, where we've been talking about the scientific connections between the environment, water, and our youth's behaviors. We've seen so much popping off in this week or over the summer with our kids getting into so much trouble, but I would like to analyze how all of these things have connected to our kids. In part 1, we talked about the water affecting our children, how they use fluoride in the water system, and they use it in our toothpaste, and they say, well, it's good for you to avoid tooth decay. Okay, but they have toothpaste that can do that without fluoride. We also discussed how the water system in many parts of the country isn't worth drinking because of the chemical sewage that has occurred over the course of years. Okay, may we remind you of Flint? Now, Flint is just one of thousands of stories, but Flint has recently received so much coverage because of, what has happened over the years. And last week we discussed food in terms of our children consuming these overly processed food that has caused so many of our children to go out of line. Remember, there was a story where a 17-year-old girl was eating hot Cheetos every day, 4 or 5 bags a day, and had to have her gallbladder removed. So go check that story out also if you want to learn more about that. And I gave some tips on how parents could actually use green smoothies, to help fuel their child's start of the day. So today's show, we're going to look at whether or not our children's overall mental health plays a role in their success or downfall. And should we expect our children to know how to deal with life crises and maintain good grades? So if you just went through something horrific, should we still hold our children accountable for succeeding in the classroom? Should we not allow them to use that as an excuse? So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to our show. We're going to go ahead and get straight into our content, and I want to kind of give you all some reference points. Everything I'm mentioning in my show today there will be some links and some resources provided. So if you want to go get more information about what we're talking about, the links will be available for you. So from time to time, I've had to consult with my great mentor and scholar by way of his books whenever I need clarity on a few things. I'm talking about Dr. Llaila, Afrika. I've had many of his books, and I've used the information for my own personal well-being, as well as passing this information down to family and friends. And so for this particular topic, I am going to discuss how our children's mental capacity can be affected by trauma if it's not addressed correctly and right away. Earlier this spring, I had Miss Tasha Presley, who is a licensed rehabilitation counselor that started her own journey towards inner healing in order to thrive in other areas of her life, because she had to learn to grow up with life issues in a dysfunctional home. So she's now been able to, show other people, children and adults, how to handle your life situations in a practical way by providing them with wisdom. So I'll provide you with her contact information. So for those of you all that are following me here in the Charlotte area, you can reach out to her. But again, you can still contact her even if you don't live in the area, just to get some information from her. So my life's work has involved working with children and adults of all ages, from ages 3 on up to middle and high school, and even the adults. And some of the adults that I deal with are older than me. Some of them are my same age, and some of them are younger than me. Adults are faced with life situations as well, which stems from their childhood. For instance, I had a former student of mine, that told me that the reason why she didn't think she would excel in chemistry is because she was always told that she wasn't smart. She wasn't good enough. She wasn't going to amount to anything. She's in her late 40s, and she's still dealing with these issues. She said that her family constantly berated her because she was darker than most of her siblings and cousins, and she was considered basically the black sheep of the family. And it amazes me that family members tell their children these things, and they don't realize the detriment or the harm that this could serve to their children as they become adults. So as I go through this course of my teaching career, I know that I always believe in stating positive words and thoughts to my students, because I don't know what they come to my classroom with. They deal with so much stuff, and I encourage them to constantly, get rid of that stinking thinking, that negative thinking. We're not going to have a pity party, okay? Because if I allow my students to sit there and take all of that in for the next 16 weeks, then that's all they're harper on, is that I can't do this. I can't, I'm not good at math, because chemistry is a lot of math. But I tell them, no stinking thinking. The moment you say I can't, I'm going to show you that you can, and you will. In my home, I have the 42 affirmations of my aunt, because those are very powerful statements that our children should learn. Okay? And I'm just saying all that to say, had my students had the 42 principles or affirmations of my aunt, just saying them every single day growing up, or even in their adult life, then I believe that would eliminate some of that negative thinking. When you wake up, when you rise up, you should be telling yourself positive thoughts anyway. According to Dr. Afrika's book, it's called The Handbook for Raising Black Children. He states that the ma'at is an African Kemetic Egyptian word, which means balance, harmony, justice, propriety, order, reciprocity, and truth. The main principles of ma'at are control of actions and thought, faith in the ability to be taught through understanding, truth, and acting on truth, having the ability to know the real from the unreal, and knowing right from wrong. So I'm going to read to you a few of those ma'at principles so you can see why you should get a copy of these 42 affirmations. Dr. Afrika refers to them as the 42 declarations of innocence. So I'm going to read a few of them, okay? And this is found in that book that I just mentioned, okay? So just bear with me while I give you a few of those principles, okay? I'm going to read just a few of them. Hold tight. Number 1. I have done no wrong. Number 2, I have not taken what does not belong to me. Number 5, I have not been unjust. Number 7, I have not dishonored places of my ancestors, including their homes, business, history. Number 8, I have not lied. Number 9, I have not misused money, food, others, time or the community. Number 10, I have not used words to harm others or talk behind others' backs, such as gossiping. And then this other one, I have not polluted the earth. And the other one that we tend to talk about a lot, I have not polluted myself with junk foods, drugs, alcohol, and marijuana. So this book was written in 2009. And when I've looked at some of the Ma'at principles, they're not necessarily all in the same order, but you can get these affirmations or declarations and place them in your children's homes, or in their rooms rather, and make it visible so that children are reminded of what they should do daily to remain in an affirmative state. There's a sister by the name of Queen Mother Rakik. I'm going to mispronounce her name. Rakik Kajara Nia Ya Nebeth, who wrote a children's book on Ma'at. And I apologize in advance to the sister for messing up her name. I had the privilege of having her on my show 2 years ago, and I interviewed her, and we talked about this very topic about having balance in our lives. So I'll give you the link to that show as well, so you can go back and listen to it. But it was a very powerful show. So if we think about how our children have to cope or deal with life crises, we can't expect them to handle life the same way as an adult. So if you think about these principles here and having to deal with them, we got to basically, I would say, remind our children that, yes, they're going to go through some things, but we have to help them go through those things. Okay? Like when there's death, some children deal with it by being angry, crying, withdrawing from their friends. I can only imagine how our children all across the country are dealing with the death of a classmate through violence, and knowing that every day they look at that empty desk, that's a reminder that their friend isn't coming back. Or this summer, their friends were killed and they're not going to come back. Children do experience physical warnings when they are trying to deal with stressful situations, and teachers should be able to identify with this in some form or fashion. So I'm going to give you a few of those symptoms also. Okay, because again, a lot of parents and teachers don't realize that there are some signs that our children are dealing with this. So let me go ahead and read you a few of those symptoms. Here are some of the most common symptoms: heart palpitations, dizziness, chest pain or discomfort, choking or smothering sensations, cold and tingling feelings in their hands and feet, feelings of disillusion or disorientation, sweating, faintness, blurred vision, trembling, shortness of breath, stomach distress like rumblings and nervousness, even eye twitching or face twitching. So on the other hand, children could be going through a lot at home within their environment, and we need to have some coping skills to help get them through that as well. Sometimes it's the parents that place these unnecessary stresses on the children. Yes, I said it, the parents. But you can ask, why should we not hold our parents accountable? Well, we should. Because you know what, guys? Just because you're having a hard time at work don't mean you should come home and take it out on your kids. They can't help with what you've gone through at work. Okay, that's not their place. But you may ask, what can we do to help them? Again, I'm going to give you some suggestions because I don't believe in just giving you problems. I believe in giving you suggestions. So again, these are some suggestions according to Dr. Afrika. Again, he wrote this book specifically for Black children. But some of these things can also be applied to other children of other races, although his book is targeting towards Black children because there are some biological differences in Black children from other children, as well as some other ethno-specific perspectives. So some relaxing techniques that you can incorporate in your child's daily routine would be to give them a relaxing story at night. So as you're preparing your child for bed, you can give them a relaxing story. Story time is always good. You can give them a warm bath that you could add chamomile to, chamomile or lavender. You can give them hugs, of course. You know, that physical interaction is always positive. Giving them a hug. Telling them you love them. Now, I'm adding that part. You got to tell your kids you love them, guys. I mean, we don't say it enough. And when children don't hear it, they don't feel it. Even though you show love in different ways, you got to also have that physical contact with your child. And here's something else Dr. Llaila Afrika said. Having parent-child meditation, doing yoga, having massages, water play, playing simple puzzles, cuddling, and also soft music with or without lyrics. And he even said watching fish in a fish tank. Okay? So those things are very relaxing. I love going outside when I hear the cicadas creaking and talking, and I love hearing them. That's very relaxing to me. I love hearing water also. Like if you go to a lake or a pond or like the mountains and they have water flowing, I love hearing that as well. So if you know of children that are dealing with suicidal thoughts, according to Dr. Afrika, they may have a vitamin B deficiency. Vitamin B as in boy, okay, not D, but vitamin B. This is due in part to eating junk food, drinking sodas and energy drinks, because those items, of course, tend to reduce the biochemistry of vitamin B levels within the body. So you think about it. Vitamin B deficiency symptoms include like anxiety, mood swings, depression, hostility, rage, forgetfulness, cravings for sweets, mental confusion, dreadful thoughts with something bad is going to happen, and so forth. Many adults can attest to this list as well. And again, if you're not taking vitamin B, you should. It's also good for energy as well. I take vitamin B12 supplements every day because I'm a vegetarian. And since I don't eat meat, which the only way you really get vitamin B12 is through meat, we have to, of course, add vitamin B12 supplements into our diet. Now, check this out. There was a study done around 1977 within the Tahoma County Probation Department of California. They found that when children changed their eating habits from eating junk food and high sugary consumptions to a substitute diet of whole foods, fruits, and vegetables, and of course that adequate protein, and a decrease in the dried fruits, salt, coffee, and tea, the behavior of that facility saw drastic changes, okay? So they did a little test on these children almost 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. We're talking about a 70% decrease in hyperactive and criminal behavior. So parents, please be mindful of what you're feeding your scholar, because when they walk out that door with some high, fast food that you gave them, keep in mind what you're setting the teachers up for. Be mindful also of what you prepared them for lunch, because it will carry over throughout the day. So if you're giving them junk in the morning for breakfast, and then you're going to double that up at lunchtime, can you imagine why you're getting those phone calls? Okay? But go back to parts 1 and 2 if you want to get some tips that I shared about that. Now, my suggestion would be to not give your child ADHD medications. I know some of you all have children on ADHD meds, because let me tell you, those drugs are gateway drugs. You may not believe me, but they are. This was not a big thing when I was growing up. You know, I believe if you change a child's diet, you will see over time that there isn't a need for them to take these psychiatric drugs. We must be mindful that the reason some of our children are misdiagnosed as ADD or ADHD is because they have a high diet of white sugar consumption. The education they are receiving may be too slow for them, or it's not emotionally or intellectually challenging. So let me pause on that thought. I just told you about the food last week. But again, we're talking about the emotional and intellectual challenges that our children are having or lack thereof in the classroom. That's why parents, it is important for you to have those cultural experiences at home. If you know who you are, you will let your children know the same thing. When your children know who they are, they will walk to school with their heads held high. My parents emphasized self-love, black pride, black love. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with saying that you have black pride. Other cultures have pride in their community. When you ask a white person where they're from, they can tell you, oh, I'm from I'm from Europe. And then they can give you the specific country. Okay? I'm Irish. When you ask the Latino community, I'm Dominican. I'm from Costa Rica. Like, they give you all of these things. Jamaicans, Haitians, they give you prideful responses. But the African American people that are born here, like, we don't have a connecting force to say, okay, we just say we're from North Carolina, and I could go a little bit further and say, well, some people say they're not Africans, and that's another story for another day. But we should have pride in who we are. If you tell your children who they are and whose they are, okay, yes, whose they are, then they won't have a problem when they go to school, because then they already know what they're dealing with. You got to have positive pictures of scholars in the home, mathematicians, engineers, chemists, biologists, astronomers in your home, so your children can see that they come from greatness. Yes, I know that there are some cultural differences in the classroom. There could also be a lot of things going on the inside of that classroom that would keep your child unfocused. It could be something as simple as noise, others talking, colors, odors, touching, emotions, and thoughts that aren't even related to what's going on in the classroom. You got to tap into your child's emotional and intellectual psyche. And what I noticed in Dr. Afrika's book over and over and over is that he believes that we should teach our children to speak in the affirmative. And as adults, we need to be mindful that words have power. They can create life and death in a child's world. Please watch what you say. You can't take it back once you release them out into the universe. And as a parent of 3, I know the difficulties sometimes in raising children and being upset at their behavior. Sometimes it could be our work life that we bring home and we take it out on our children. It could be some financial stress that we're going through in our house. Whatever it is, we have to remember that our children don't understand these things, so we have to watch what we say and do around them. Children mimic what they see, okay? They mimic what they see. So let me give y'all some reminders of what you can do, again, to tap into your child's psyche in the middle of the day. When they have lunch, and again, some of these tips are for kids who are young, like in elementary school, because they have lunch boxes. Now, if you have a middle school child and you're fixing their lunch, you can use this tip too. You can create some affirmation cards and place them inside their lunch box. So when they open it up, they get this surprise, this reminder of you as a parent. I used to do this all the time with my children. When they were little, they would look forward to those words of encouragement at lunchtime, from mommy and daddy. And even though my children are older now, 2 of them are in college and 1 is in high school, of course, we don't prepare lunches, but now I just send them text messages every now and then, some reminders of positive words to keep your head up. Like Tupac said, keep your head up. You never know what those powerful words could do to a child. Just the mere fact of what the teacher did to them moments before they get your message, it turns them on, into a better way the rest of the afternoon. So put those affirmation cards in their lunch boxes. Speak life over your children, okay? Speak life over your children. Constantly tell them that they are the best thing since sliced bread, okay? I know recently, some of you all may have heard, if you all keep up with this pop culture, with Black China's mother telling, I got to pause for a moment, okay? Black China is this well, I don't even, she's out there with the Kardashians, okay? So she's out there in the entertainment world. But her mother talked so disrespectfully about her, you know, saying things that she cannot take back in this digital world. Those words will live on and on and on, and could be used against her in the years to come. She said some awful things about her daughter. And I don't care how much I don't agree with my mother, you will never catch me disrespecting her. Okay? You will never catch me saying negative thoughts about my mother. The same goes on for my children. Yes, they could be, you know, unruly at times. I mean, children are children. But to sit here and say you wish you would have never given birth to your child and that they were the result of a rape, a sexual assault. Like, why would you even put that out there? You know, I mean, that was just so low. That was on the low end of the totem pole, okay? Parents, I have some other tips you can use also for your child's mental stability to get them off on the right track that involves some natural holistic methods. If you want this list, go ahead and email me at tkthechemist@gmail.com and make sure that you put in the subject ADHD herbs, and I'll email you some information regarding this. Now, keep in mind that although I am not a medical professional, I'm a medical doctor, I do have a degree in chemistry and a master's degree in life science with dual concentrations in both biology and chemistry. So I've studied a lot of these methods, and I know what's good and what's not good when it comes to our children's health and well-being. So before we close out our show, I want to give you all as parents some positive energy through my laptop, through the computer screen, through this digital platform. I know it's not easy being a parent. I've gone through this for the past 21 years. So I'm right there with you. Raising boys is equally as stressful as raising girls. You have different levels of stresses to deal with. So I get that. Parents, all you have to do is talk to your children. See how their day has been. You'd be surprised at what they can share with you. Just simply asking them, they'll tell you. So let me give you all some quick tips. In addition to some of the things I've already told you, I'm going to give you all some more tips of what you can do before the school year starts. When they have open house, make sure you go to it. This will offer you some opportunities to meet the child's teacher and exchange emails and phone numbers. You want to establish a positive rapport with them up front because, let me tell you, you don't want your first encounter with that teacher to be when something bad has happened. Be sure to get a calendar and get organized. That's the one thing I know that will help make a smooth transition for keeping up with things related to school. You also want to make sure that you email your child's teacher at least once a month, but like that first week, introduce yourself to them. Tell them who you are. And if you have Power School, I know here in our area, we have what's called Power School. It's basically a grading system that allows you to monitor your child's grades. So your teacher can't use the excuse of saying, well, you know, I don't know why they got a 0. You can look on Power School to see what their grades are 24/7. So you can closely monitor what's been going on in the classroom. And then you can also monitor your child's homework assignments if they haven't been turning them in. Now, there have been some things going on, though, where some schools have a policy where the child will not receive a 0, but a 50% if they didn't do an assignment. So they're basically getting a grade for something they did not do. But again, as a parent, you need to monitor that as well. If you see your child doing the homework, go ahead and make sure they put it in their book bag. So that way, at least you know that when they left the home, it was in there. So if they have it in their book bag the night before, they should be good. So you want to make sure that you don't not know what's happening, but that you do know what's happening by monitoring your child's academics. Make sure that you follow up with your teachers once a month. That's it, once a month. That way you're keeping those lines of communication going. And it gets easier and easier, you know, It's better to do it at the beginning of the grading period than at the end, because teachers are stressed out and they're not about trying to change grades, okay? So you want to make sure that you take care of those things beforehand. So as we close out our show, I want you guys to give me your feedback on some of the tips and things that we've been discussing for the past couple of weeks when we I want you guys to give me some of your thoughts about some of the things that you've learned over the course of the past couple of weeks with the More Than Just Science show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in every week. You can catch us right here on YouTube or Spreaker, on Instagram, on Twitter, or on Periscope. You've got all my contact information. You know who I am. I'm Professor TK the Chemist, and you've been listening to the More Than Just Science show. Have a great Saturday, everyone, and Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week that you are listening to this show, have a great one. And most of all, educate your mind, body, and soul with words and thoughts that will empower you. The library is free. You don't have to have money to go to the library. Malcolm X once said, education is your passport to your future. Young people, elders, get up, get out, and get some knowledge. As we progress through the fall, go ahead and start empowering yourself. You need to learn something new every day. Even though you're in school, you have kids that are in school, still you need to learn something new every day. Be allergic to negativity. Be allergic to being average. Until next time, peace.